Today on the Tim Marner podcast show, I've got Grace Wood, nutritionist. Grace Wood, the owner, founder of Go Live Well. What is Go Live Well?
It's my business. It has 3 parts to it. It has one-to-one.
It's quite abrupt then, when I said that. It's quite aggressive. I like
What is it?
I like it. Let's get straight to the fucking point.
Let's do it.
So we get to the juicy stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
So it has 3 parts. First part is my private clinic, which is one-to-one clients, primarily celiacs. The second part is the corporate side, which is employee wellbeing workshops, where I go into businesses and deliver all kinds of topics, content, online or in person. And the third part, the newest part, very exciting, is my luxury retreats.
which your first one's in March.
It is.
Where is it?
It's in the Costa Blanca.
Right.
So it's in a little town called Benissa, which is near to Alicante.
And what will happen on this retreat? What things will be going down?
So I've got a mixed bag. It's being announced tonight, actually. So if this goes out first, it's fine. But I've got a private chef coming. I've got a new lady joined the team called Emma. She is a women's health and wellness coach, and she does personal training. So she's coming along to do some work with us as well. We've got yoga coming, breath work. We've got sound baths and cacao ceremonies. We've got essentially we've just got a blend of self-care activities for people to try out. It's aimed at women who are kind of early on the sort of self-care journey, if you like. You know, they're trying to figure out how to get a bit more time for themselves and kind of get the new habits that they want to put in to stick. You know, whether it's finishing that book on the nightstand, or whether it's going to yoga more often, or starting yoga, or it could be exercising, eating a bit better, whatever it is. You know, more sleep, for instance. It doesn't really matter what the goal is. It's just creating the space for them to basically start it. And the unique part of my retreat is under one roof, you've got a personal trainer, a nutritionist, and a private chef. And they're living there. So you can just pick the brains, watch them cook. You can ask me questions. You can have a one-on-one. It's just kind of super flexible. And the idea being that they have the space to learn and create new habits, but most importantly, it lasts when it gets home. So we'll cover, habit formation and kind of. Did a post recently, instead of New Year's resolutions, it's like New Year's routines, like new routines, new habits. Change one thing and it'll change your life. Don't try and change 10 things, because it's not sustainable or achievable for most people. So it's kind of a blend of those 2 parts. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Well, just tell people your qualifications and what you've done through your time. What have you got?
As in all the qualifications?
Yeah, just mention all the qualifications.
After A-level, because I'm sure no one cares what A-levels are studied.
Rubbish, that.
Boring. Yeah, don't remember anyway. I did a degree. My first degree was in Northumbria in Newcastle, which is where I actually met Emma, our personal trainer. That was in Spanish and business. So I did a year abroad there, which was super fun. Then I did my master's in HR at my Met, and fell into a career in HR, as you know. We spoke about that last time. And then I've done a 3-year course. I squashed it into 2 years because I'm wildly impatient when I've made my mind up. But I did a 3-year course in nutrition, qualified in 2022, I think it was. And then since then, I've obviously set up Go Live Well and kind of worked on the 3 aspects of that.
So we talked about this before, from the HR move into nutrition. What happened?
Yeah. How long have you got? In a nutshell, it was a really good job, and it was something I was pretty good at. It was just, to be honest, it felt a little bit thankless. You know, if you do your job right in HR, and I've had this conversation with so many HR professionals, nobody's happy because they've had to compromise, which is kind of where we come in. We're trying to kind of bridge the gap between owners, shareholders, directors, and everybody else. And compromise kind of leaves you with part of what you want, but not everything. So everyone's always a bit, frustrated or fed up, and you've got to have loads of really emotionally draining conversations. People are losing their jobs, and you're having to tell them that. Then the COVID pandemic, it's not for the faint of heart. Really glad I did it. Learned a lot, thick skin, all the rest of it. Really, people skills and, the exposure in, high up in businesses, board meetings I got to sit on, learned loads that I wouldn't have learned elsewhere. So really glad I did it.
Do you think that set up your why and purpose within Go Live Well, going through the HR, knowing that these people are not looking after themselves, and most of the emotional problems maybe come from the gut?
Yes and no. It definitely everything happens for a reason, I think. Well, I believe anyway. And I think the journey of kind of doing the languages, I've always had that in my back pocket. I love traveling, lived abroad. I chose the degree because I liked speaking Spanish, wanted to learn more, and I wanted to live abroad for a bit. So it was like the perfect course. Then kind of followed into HR, where I learned all the business skills and life skills, and kind of, like I say, that emotional intelligence that was just had to grow because to do the job I did. It's all led me to be in good stead to do what I do now. So whether that was setting up my own business, whether that's networking, whether that's going into corporate environments and delivering content, whether that's, knowing how to ask for help with stuff that I'm useless at, like sales and marketing, anything like that. It's all I feel like it's all led me to be in a good position to have a good go at this stuff. And in terms of you asked about, did I see that people needed it? Well, yes, in other people, I guess, but more than anything in myself. It was my own journey that kind of led me more so down this path, because I just thought, gosh, I was about 25, I'm 32 now. I was about 25 and I thought, it's a bit of a slog this, and I know it's a first world problem, we've all got food on our plates and central heating, I know on the one hand you could say, well, you can't complain, but I just didn't feel like excited about life. I just felt like it was, gosh, this is what I'm going to do now for the rest of, my career, my working life. And what I realised was it wasn't what I was doing, it was my mindset around it, it was not having boundaries, it was we spoke last time, recovering people pleaser and perfectionist, all these things that until they were tackled, I didn't even know what they were, until I figured it out and kind of tackled them and did more of the self-care and kind of worked on my mindset and all these things, life was harder than it needed to be. So that's why this sort of Go Live Well's been born, which is with not the world's biggest changes, but, change is still hard to make, but with some simple changes and the right support, my whole life changed for the better. So I'm so passionate about kind of getting that to people now who, if they want to, I can help show them some of the options. So whether it's coming on a retreat or whether it's supporting their staff through, corporate stuff, or it's one-to-one work with diet and lifestyle, it makes such a difference. And I always say to my clients, if you think of two parallel lines, a fraction of a % change on one of them you wouldn't even notice it to begin with. But after a year or two, that's they're miles apart. And if you think of your life, that's, one small change might think, well, what's the point even doing that? Well, what's the point? It might not do much. A year down the line, that person's unrecognisable and they changed one thing. And that's coming back to the routines and habits over sort of resolutions and grand plans. It's too overwhelming. Let's just start with, and I always say to my nutrition clients, let's just focus on, say, breakfast. And they say, well, that doesn't seem a lot to do and shouldn't I be doing more? And I say, well, the 1% change we've just spoken about, I give the parallel line example. But then if you think of breakfast, that's 33% of your diet. So it's not 1% change, it's a 33% change, but you've changed one thing. So it's really about kind of showing people that, and kind of supporting them through, there are alternatives, you can kind of get a bit more zest in life and a bit more of the good stuff by just having a slightly different mindset, working on, your diet, just having a bit more of a holistic approach, I guess it is.
What is your thoughts on breakfast? Should everybody, in your opinion, be having breakfast, lunch and dinner?
I knew you were going to ask me something about nutrition that was kind of what should people do. It's really hard to say because it's so dependent on the person. I would say most people... As a standard, knowing nothing about who's listening, most people, yeah, the right breakfast, whether that's... And don't forget, breakfast is break fast, it's breaking the fast overnight. So whether you have it at 6 a.m. or lunchtime, it's the first meal of the day is what we're really calling it. For some people, having it at 6 a.m. is not a good idea. As in, I'm assuming they're getting up for a 9 to 5, they're up early, school run, if it's early in the morning, might not be the best idea. They might need a little bit longer than somebody else. Whereas I know other people, if they have their breakfast after, if they don't have it within, say, an hour of waking up, their blood sugars are a bit low and, they're a bit, they can't kind of think straight. So it depends on so many other factors. So it is hard to say. But the best advice for breakfast or your first meal of the day is make sure it's got lots of protein in. Try and have something to eat before you have any form of tea or coffee with caffeine in, and try and have it low sugar. That's the best advice because it sets your blood sugars up for the day really well. Like, giving me a look.
I'm only thinking about myself, fuck everyone else.
Yeah.
What do you
have for brekkie?
I don't at the minute. Now, I used to be on a bit of an OMAD thing when I'm just like one meal a day.
Okay.
And I'm trying to change that up because I've looked at my blood work and there's something not right with my cholesterol and stuff like that. So I'm going to try to change it up. So I've now going to start having breakfast, lunch and dinner and just getting really balanced. Because my blood work don't lie.
Right.
So
we can see, you can trial it and see.
But then I'm thinking, when should he have that breakfast? What time? Because I train early in the morning. Should he have it before? Should he have it after? It's just like I'm going to have to go through a bit of a process. I just wondered what your thoughts were on breakfast.
Yeah, it is trial and error. You're absolutely right. Just kind of try it. I went through a phase where I loved going to the gym before I had anything to eat.
Yeah.
I felt more energetic, whereas I have one of my really good friends. She says if she went to the gym and did a good workout, not just looking at the weights, like she actually went and did a solid workout, she reckons she'd be sort of borderline fainting. She just doesn't think she'd be able to. When she's tried it, she's found it not suitable at all. So again, it's really find what works for you. And again, in like the phase that you're in, if someone's, it's an obvious example, but if somebody's just had a baby, getting up, going to the gym fasted, coming out, that's just not a thing. So obviously they would have to think differently about breakfast or what time they train. It's kind of fitting it into what's going to work for you, because then you're more likely to stick to it. Because the best breakfast in the world one day is not going to do anything. Eating one good breakfast doesn't make us healthy or fit, or you know what I mean. It's just one meal, just like a bad meal doesn't make us unhealthy. It's what we do over time. So I'd rather someone do something that's 5% better than what they're doing, but they do it every day or every week or whatever, depending on what it is, then I'd rather, than them do the perfect breakfast once and then not again for a month, because it's too difficult. So definitely just trial and error. What works for you? What do you enjoy? Because if it's really hard work, you're less likely to stick to it. It's got to fit in. It's got to be appealing. Just trial and error, kind of see if it works, see if you feel any different, and if not, change it up again.
Well, I've got a meal prep company involved, so it's going to be quite easy. So I'm getting the meals delivered on Mondays now. So I'm going to do that, and then, like you said, I was hoping for some sort of cookie cutter approach, but I know it doesn't work. I just thought I'd just get a bit of a gauge. I'm going to have to go fuck. I have to do a bit of hard work and put a bit of trial and error in. So yeah. But
it becomes easier. I mean, have you read Atomic Habits?
No, I don't read very well.
Okay.
I can read, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I realise.
But it's just information doesn't go in. And audio, I can't get audio either. Does it go into me? I have to visually watch something. So
got it.
Is it on YouTube or something?
I don't know actually. I'll check, because it's a book that I read recently. I've never read it before. I just stumbled across it and I thought,
the habits thing you were talking about
the routines. It's kind of come from that, which a lot of it you read, you think it's a good reminder, but I kind of knew it. But there was a few things that the author was talking about that I thought, I've never thought of it that way.
What? Give me a summary then. So
the best thing I thought that I've been banging, don't have to read it, that I've been banging on about to anyone that'll listen since I read it, and it was only a month ago I finished it. But the author's talking about, when you save money, and obviously it starts the interest is compound interest. You don't just get interest on the first £5 you saved, it builds up, and eventually when you've got £500, the interest is on the 500, not on the original 5 compound interest. The same thing is true of habits. And he calls it like habit stacking. So you start with one habit, which is what I'm always preaching about. Start small and do it really well. It's far more achievable, far more realistic, and therefore you're going to get sustainable results. Stack another. And an obvious one is to start with something in the morning. Like a really good morning routine is, we always preach, you've heard, the 5 a.m. club, or all these books that are just about morning routine. Because you're starting your day in a way that you're more likely to want to continue to make the best decisions for you, whatever they are. So if you've started your day, I don't know, scrolling through Instagram, reading a message that made you feel a bit, something, you're kind of starting off on, and then you have an unhealthy meal, and then you're late to work because you didn't get up on time, all that carry on is setting you up for probably not the best day. Whereas if you start strong, it's easier said than done, but this is this thing about kind of just pick one habit. So if you snooze your alarm twice, snooze it once and stick to that until you then can snooze it not snoozing it. Or if you're not having breakfast, just start by eating something, if that's what you want to do. Or if you're not going to the gym, don't expect you're going to go for an hour 5 days a week. Just start with a walk on your lunch. There's always something you can do, but stack the habits on top of each other, and eventually, you might think, I've been doing this 6 months and I'm not feeling that different. Don't give up, because eventually all the benefits start to come through. There's an experiment that they did with an ice cube. I can't remember the exact temperature, but it doesn't matter. They had an ice cube on the table, and the room was whatever temperature. It didn't melt. They dropped it by a degree. Didn't melt. They dropped it by a degree. And they did this for, I don't know, however many degrees, 10 degrees, 15 degrees. It didn't melt. And eventually they got to 1 degree and it suddenly just went. And what the experiment is showing is like your efforts, you think it's doing nothing and it's pointless, but don't give up, because eventually you'll suddenly start to get all these benefits and the ice cube melts. And if you'd just given up before then, you wouldn't have got the benefits. So really sticking at the habits, and then this compound interest kind of comes.
Good that.
Yeah.
Isn't it really good that? I like that.
It's really stuck in my mind.
Yeah. I think that's what I'm doing with this. I'm going to get a breakfast and a lunch and just keep going, and then just see how I'm feeling.
Yeah, give it a fair trial.
Yeah, give it a fair. Instead of just doing like a week, oh, it's not working, and then just chip it off.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on these fitness people giving these nutritional cookie cutter? You know, you see it, don't you? 12-week fucking shred program, 12-week transformation program. What are your thoughts on them, without calling anybody out?
Yeah, I mean,
because everything you do is so individual. It's so personalised. I mean, you've been like looking at what's right for me and stuff, where they've not got the option to do that. You could be, I don't know if you'd be doing yourself some damage by doing one of these. I
mean, yeah, like you say, without naming names, I've had people, the clients that have come to me and basically been in absolute ruin because they've gone and seen a PT that's given them nutrition advice, and they've done, you know, a 6-week Groupon course. It's not the same. It's not, you know, I'm not saying they don't know anything, but it's just, you've got to be a little bit mindful of who you're going to for advice. Like, someone came to me for PT advice, I go to the gym and I know what to do myself, but I wouldn't claim to be an expert in workouts and physiques and correct. You know, I would say, well, why don't you go and see this person that I know is, you know, a personal trainer who's really good. So there's always, you know, look, just be a little bit cautious.
There is a thing, isn't there, with like people think as a personal trainer, but they're also like a nutritional expert. I know you do a bit of it, but like it's not in depth of like what you've done. So people go, "Oh, personal training must know what to eat, right?" But
and again, it's what's the goal? Because if you want to be a bodybuilder and someone says, "Well, eat chicken and rice all day," maybe that is the way you should be doing it. And I wouldn't be able to get someone into that state. That's not my area of expertise, but there's a difference between performance and health as well. Yeah. Like there's a reason I've sort of stayed away from pro athletes and going down that avenue, because quite often, I'm talking best of the best, they have to sacrifice some degree of health for their performance. And that's not something I want to specialise in. You know, I absolutely understand it, but it's not really my bag. Yeah. So if someone says I want to be healthier, you know, I want to heal my gut, I want to, you know, because it's sort of run of the mill.
Eventually everybody's goal should be, should it not?
I guess it's whatever they want it to be, you know, who am I to say? You
can't be an athlete for the rest of your life. You can't.
I see what you mean, like later down the line.
Later down the line.
Yeah,
it's like
sure.
For longevity, it's like, it can't be, it's not right for you.
It's really hard to answer the question, like, should we be careful? Because you can get someone who might not have done the same course as me and they're a PT and then they do nutrition as well, but they might be getting absolutely brilliant results. They're practicing safely. They know more than enough to practice within the remit that they sort of position themselves in, and I think that's brilliant. The more options, the better for me.
I know a lot of people like that.
You know,
I know more the other way.
The cowboys.
Like, fuck me.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard all sorts. Like, I mean, I can't think of it off the top of my head, but they come out, you know, see it online, or people will send me things. So, what do you think of this? And I think, oh my goodness me, that's dangerous. You know, and they're just flogging it. And in terms of the cookie cutter, I guess, does one size fit all? Well, no, because everyone's so different. You know, people say to me, how much protein do we need? I'm like, well, who are you asking? Because someone who is very sedentary, depending on the gender, the age, and ethnicity, and physical activity, you know, depending on all of that, that's one answer. But then you got a pro athlete that'll need probably double, you know, quite literally. So it really depends on their body weight and all this. So it's not a simple answer. But so no, a cookie cutter approach isn't always the best. But to be honest, there's so much sort of, you think of like core principles of healthy eating that do apply to everybody. And this is everybody who wants to just be a bit healthier. I'm not talking about someone who specifically wants to heal ulcerative colitis, or they specifically need help with going gluten-free because they're celiac or because they've got cancer. They are very different specific things. But the average Joe on the street that thinks, I want to be a little bit healthier, probably need to eat a little bit better, exercise a bit more, that kind of thing. I think there's tons of advice that can be a little bit more cookie cutter because it's just the basics. Let's get the basics right, which, by the way, is more than half of the battle. Yeah. And then if you still need support, then go more specialist. Does that make sense? Go down a more individual road at that point.
Yeah, because I do truly believe that everything starts from within, and everybody should get the blood work done. Because
knowledge is power.
Yeah, the answers are there.
Yeah.
You know, a friend of mine, Sam McKenzie, shout out to Sam, he says don't guess, test.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everybody's kind of, or they get an information, or you should do this, should do that. It's just like, don't fucking guess, or get somebody, just like, get a test done and just like, just check your blood work, the answers are there. Yeah. And then you can see someone like you and go, look, I want to, you know.
Yeah, help me.
Yeah.
The only time I would disagree with that is in like a one-to-one setting with my clients. When I do the first session's always a bit longer because I've got to ask, 101 questions. It's like a very friendly Spanish Inquisition. I have to know all about your medical history, your case history, your symptoms, your lifestyle. I have to understand you really well to be able to give the best advice and obviously practice safely. So, but if someone says to me they've got this list of symptoms and it's glaringly obvious to me with my experience that it's dysbiosis, so just an imbalance of the good and bad bacteria in the gut, for instance, okay, the advice I give will be based around their lifestyle, any medications, any medical conditions, and it's very bespoke to them. Yeah. But testing is probably not going to change my approach. Yeah. So I'd rather save my client the 400 quid on a stool test or whatever it might be. Try this approach first because it's 90% likely to be what I think it is, because obviously we've been trained to kind of identify what we think it is likely to be. It's not harmful if it's not. If anything, it just boosts your gut health. Think of probiotics and eating more fibre and reducing irritants in the gut. It's all good stuff regardless. Yeah. And then after that session, on the follow-up, see where they're up to. Has it been as effective as it should have been in my, in my experience? Any new symptoms come up? And it just okay, so like a detective, I'm thinking, well, yeah, it's worked. I knew it was dysbiosis, or it was SIBO, it was such a thing. Or it was the dairy, or we do need to heal the lining of the gut, whatever it was. Then they should be okay, or better. But if they are still having problems, then it might be okay. So if it's not that, it's likely to be this. And I'd rather do a couple of sessions before spending hundreds and hundreds on tests. There's always an exception to that. Someone might come in and I think it's not obvious what it is. It could be one of four things. So rather than guess, test 100%. Yeah. So I'm just a little bit more selective because it's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
And not everyone can.
Yeah, no, get that. Here's a random question for you.
Okay.
Right. I know you've done a nutrition thing and you're very scientific and you like your facts and stuff like that, right? But how much does spirituality or intuition come into what you're doing? Does any point you feel that this could be trauma that's creating this thing?
Oh yeah. I'm not talking trauma with a capital T, because that's, of course, it happens, but most people it's trauma with a little t, isn't it? And it's like complex. Complex trauma as opposed to like one big event. Who's not got trauma in their life of some description? Some more than others, but for me, this is kind of what I was saying about when I was going through the HR and thinking something's not right, I want to do something different, and how I've come to the point of offering the retreats and what have you and the health coaching with my one-to-one clients. Yeah, there's the science and it backs up everything, and I do love that, I must say. But yeah, the other half of the equation is I can give you the best diet in the world for you, where you are in your life phase and what your goals are. But if your home life is mega stressful, or you've got a certain, mental block on something, until that changes, the diet can only be so effective, and it's not as effective as you would hope it would be. You can eat the best in the world, but if somebody's so stressed that they're not digesting the food, it's pointless. They might as well eat sawdust, Not literally. Nobody go and eat sawdust.
How do you get to that then? How do you get to someone? Again, by doing the Spanish Inquisition, or... Because you're like... Are you quite soft at times? Would you say you're quite... Yeah. Because you do deliver facts like that. Like proper, don't you?
It depends on the person.
Right, okay.
Because you can have one client that comes in and they want no small talk. They're just like, sort me out. And you're like, right, let's get straight, like we did before, like, let's just get into the good stuff. Whereas you've got other people that they want, they quite literally want the first, and they don't necessarily say this, but the first 20 minutes of an hour's follow-up could be updating me on what's been happening, but that's really useful information.
You want to be listened to a little bit as well.
Yeah, maybe validated, or to be honest, just kind of updating me, because it is important, how is the relative, or how is the work problem, and how's that going, how's the family dynamics now, because it's so... We're not just a stomach. We are obviously all connected. There's no body system that's not connected to another. So again, we can just focus on the mind. If someone with anxiety goes to see a counsellor, but they're eating foods that are dreadful for them, and they've not got the nutrition, and they've not got all the cofactors that are needed to make things like dopamine and serotonin, they're not going to feel that much better. You need both. So yeah, depending on the client, depends on kind of, how I approach them, like any sort of coach would. And some people like a lot more science. I'll send the research papers. Other people like, I don't want all that nonsense. Like, I've not got time for that. Yeah, like just give me the headline. Tell me what to eat. I'm like, fine, So again, it's like different strokes for different folks. But there's a lot of that comes into it. People, again, it's like the biggest one I find is when people come in and particularly in a one-to-one setting, and they'll say, I'm really stressed, I've got a lot, I'm really busy, and I'm saying, well, don't worry, because I'm only going to give you what you can manage. I'd rather do, like I said before, do one thing really well, rather than me give you 10 things to do, and you don't do any of them, because you can't get started. It's too overwhelming. You've not got the mental space to go and even think about doing a shop, whatever, food shop, or, I don't know, getting that blood test done, just forget all that. The only thing I want you to do for the next 2 weeks is this. Whereas other clients, I give them 15 things, they're like, I'll see you in 2 months, and
what
they do it.
What would that one thing be that keeps cropping up? Would you say, is there something that kind of like is more so than others?
Probably not, no. Because it's my clients, until recently when I really niched down into celiac, my clients have been so varied that it's hard to say, but one of the ones that I start with generally, because obviously they're coming to me for dietary advice specifically in that context, is normally breakfast, because it's the easiest one to control. You can prep it the night before, so on and so forth. Lunches is the hardest one, because I'm talking again about the average person that goes to work 9 to 5, they're not at home. Let's say they've got kids and dogs and husbands and wives, whatever it might be. They're busy, so they're not working from home when they've got 2 hours to go and cook a gourmet feast. So lunch is the harder one, I find. So it would normally be, I would start with probably breakfast and snacks. This is very generic, because it really depends. Because the other thing is, if I, and I always ask about sleep, and like you say, more of this, I'm going to call it that sleep sciencey, but the spiritual stuff about, stress levels and what's been going on and what's the biggest barrier for you, because that gives me an idea of what I need to work on. If someone's stressed or they're not sleeping, scrap nutrition. We have to focus on that first. We have to. Because otherwise the diet's not going to do much.
Come on, Grace, love that. Class that, mate.
Yeah.
Innit?
Because you're going to say no, because it's a very long and meaty book. But there's
just ask me if I heard of it.
Yeah. What's his name? Matthew Walker. He's like a sleep scientist. He's like, if you're he has like socials and stuff. So you probably come across it. Other people mention it. I don't know if I've seen him on the Joe Rogan podcast. Possibly. Maybe. I haven't seen that one if he's on it, but he's really well known in that kind of industry, if he sleeps in industry. But in a nutshell, he, again, because I'm super cool, read his book years ago, full of science and research, and it was a hard read, I will say. I was kind of rereading it, thinking, wait, what? Rereading it. But it was fascinating, the things they were talking about, and essentially, again, what does it boil down to? You can't catch up on sleep that you lose. Once it's gone, it's gone. So this thing of, I'll sleep when I'm dead, or when I'm retired, or I'll sleep at the weekend. Rubbish. You need 8 hours. And this thing of, well, I only need 4 hours. There's about 3% of the world population that need less than, I think, 7 hours sleep a night. Or we could talk about this all day. But anyway, the biggest thing that I took away from kind of all these studies and all this research and all that was, we talk about pillars of health. So managing our stress, our ability, that we can't change the stressor quite often. Sometimes we can, but it's how your mindset, like how do you approach your stress and how do you cope with it. We talk about eating healthily, what you put in, garbage in, garbage out, all the rest of it. And then we talk about exercise if we're not exercising. We understand all that, and there's some of the key pillars of health, hydration, all that. But it really changed my outlook on that mental image of kind of like, like in Athens, they have like the big pillars in like old Greek. I think of it as like pillars of health. But sleep is the bedrock on which they are stood. So if your sleep's not right, and again the science is there that shows categorically the rest will just wobble. They're only going to be so effective if your sleep's not right. If you're not sleeping, it affects your food choices, it affects your mood, your emotion, your ability to learn, your safety because of things like micro sleeps and driving to all this carry on. And the research behind it, as I was reading it, and I reread it about a year ago because I went to one of my corporate workshops at a full day, and it was a manufacturing business, so they have night workers and shift patterns and what have you, so they're really hot on kind of supporting staff and providing a brilliant company. And I went in and delivered a full day, 7 back-to-back workshops across whatever it was, 250 staff on the importance of sleep. You think as a nutritionist, you think, what are you talking about sleep for? Okay, I brought nutrition in about things that kind of encourage good sleep and things that are really not going to help and why. But 90% of what I spoke about was why sleep's important for the body and the downsides and the risks if you don't, you're not sleeping properly. And then obviously practical tips, and it just blew their mind because it's so important. And I really think people think, but I eat well and I'm skinny. It's like, yeah, but what's going on in here? Are you sleeping? Are you stressed? Are you bottling things up? And that's where the spiritual stuff comes, if that's what you want to call it. The other stuff that I think is kind of not the best kept secret, but I just think it's really underestimated. Like, I think we spoke about this last time I was here, didn't we?
Yeah, do you like using the word spirituality?
Yeah, it depends who I'm with though, because it really turns some people off, and they're not with the people that need to hear it the most.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? Yeah, when you start talking about spirituality, like Wendy's going to jump on board, but she don't need it. She's already in line.
She gets it. Yeah, she's there. Yeah.
Big Dave in the warehouse needs it more.
Who's
than
like,
anyone.
what are you talking about? Yeah, so you have to
Yeah.
kind of present it in a more palatable way, I think.
Yeah, I think that's the trick for everybody. Present it a bit more palatable for the everyday person.
Do you know though?
That's why I do like the Headspace app and stuff like that. They have got rid of the woo woo sort of like side of it, which it don't need to be like that, does it?
I was the world's biggest cynic.
Good sleep. No matter what stress I've got on what's going in, like I've got 8 hours, no problem.
Good.
Like that, boom,
live forever.
A minute, I know, crazy. But I'm so blessed with it, like you said. I know the importance of it, but thinking about what you just said about being the bedrock of the other pillars, I'm like, you're absolutely right. Mm-hmm. Absolutely right.
I mean, if whether we feel tired or stressed, do you ever think, I'm desperate for broccoli?
Yeah.
No. We think, I want coffee.
Yeah.
I want, at the end of the day, I want a glass of wine. I want chocolate.
Burger,
carbs, sugar, salt, whatever your thing is. If you're tired and stressed, are you likely to be more patient or less patient with your loved ones or with your staff or your exactly. So it kind of does go into every aspect of life. So sleep.
So when you deliver that workshop, then what you're talking about? How can these people get better sleep?
Like sleep hygiene.
A little bit of a sleep hygiene.
Sleep hygiene.
I like that.
Yeah. So it was tailored to that business, because it's okay me saying to someone who works 9 to 5. Monday to Friday, but obviously in a manufacturing environment. So one of the best things you can do is have a regular go to bed and wake up time. Well, if you're on a rotating shift pattern, that's just never going to happen. From one week to the next, they're almost constantly jet lagged. It's tough. So it was things. There's generic tips for people that can have, that are, let's say, the average 9 to 5 Joe Public. So go to bed at the same time, don't eat too close to bedtime, don't do vigorous exercise too late at night because it can keep you awake. Caffeine, alcohol, get rid of that. It really affects your sleep. Having a cool bedroom, having a dark bedroom, comfortable bed, super obvious, but it makes a huge difference. But then the ones for the shift workers, it was things like when you leave the factory, particularly in summer in the UK, and it's like beaming sunlight in your eyes at 6:05 in the morning.
Yeah.
Your circadian rhythm, thousands of years of biology and evolution are saying, oh, sunlight, we need to be awake.
Yeah.
Let's be alert. And you're going home going to try and sleep. No wonder you can't get to sleep till 1 in the afternoon. And then you're up at 4 to come back. Nightmare. Put really dark sunglasses on. So simple. Likewise, if you're getting up at whatever time think of winter and you're getting up at 4 or 5 in the afternoon because you've been on a night shift and you're going back to work, you're never seeing daylight. Maybe invest in one. They're not expensive. One of these blue light or these daylight alarm clocks. There's all these options. Or go outside in summer if it's light, get the light in your eyes, all these kind of things. So it was just really bespoke tips for that business, because they have a lot of, like I said, they have a lot of night workers, and they have a lot of rotating shifts. So that was more specific. But like you, I love sleep, and because I prioritise it so much, most of my night's sleep are very good. Not all, sometimes I wake up and I'll be a bit stressed like anybody, something's going to happen, or, if your partner's ill and snoring or something, you're going to be disturbed. But if you can try to get be mindful of it and just do as much as is reasonable and feasible in your, individual situation, even half an hour more a day, over a year, how many hours extra sleep is that, and how much more processing and recovery and all this stuff goes on in the brain, clearing the adenosine, that's like think of it as like the drowsy chemical. We clear that overnight, and if we're not getting, say, 8 hours, say we clear 100% of our adenosine, this is very primitive and I'm not saying this is how it works, but 100% of our adenosine is cleared, say, in 8 hours sleep. So if you're getting 6 hours sleep, you're waking up with 20% drowsy chemical still in your body, so you're going to feel crap. So again, it's that kind of thing. Now there's I know it's always more complex than that, but we don't need to understand that level of science. It's just get a good night's sleep as much and as often as you can. Yeah, if you've got a newborn, It's going to be a challenge if you're on night work. Don't beat yourself up. Don't freak out. But just have it in your mind that when you're able to, you know it's important and you can kind of get back on it. Because otherwise, years are passing you by, bad sleep. And the difference is night and day.
Yeah, you're just existing, you're not living, are you?
Yeah, I mean, if I get less than 7 hours, I'm an 8.5 girl, and it's a bit of a blessing and a curse because quite often you can't get that much sleep. Or if you do get that much sleep, it's like you've got less hours in the day to achieve all the other things you want to do. So it is, it's a blessing and a curse, but, sleeping properly helps us with weight loss or weight management, depending on what where you're up to. It helps us with our mood. They don't call it beauty sleep for no reason. It makes you more attractive. I mean, if someone said to me, I wish I'd thought of it, I would have brought it. There's a quote by that Matt Walker that I mentioned before, this like sleep doctor. And he lists off this, what would I say if there was a drug that you could buy and it was, it made you more attractive, it made you thinner, it made you kinder, a better wife, a more intelligent, all these things. And he said, and it's free. What is it? It's sleep. And when you read that, you think,
wow.
And it's because obviously the science and the 5 million page book backs up that statement, with all this science, and you think, yeah, sorry, why am I putting all this effort into my diet and the gym and all that carry on?
Sleep don't make any sense, does it, to people? It's like, I want to live my life, I want to be as much as I can, always get much adventures, I want to be more efficient.
Feels like a waste for some people.
More money while I'm awake, and it just I
was a little bit like that, to be honest, in my younger years. I know I'm not old, but even younger years. But I was like I said before, I was the biggest cynic. I remember in my early 20s, I'd come home, I don't know if I was home from uni for good or I'd come home for a weekend, and my mum was like, I've tried this meditation app, John, and I'm like, what a load. You're literally like almost scoffing, like, Mum, come off it. What a load of nonsense. And all this. Didn't have anything, I was like, no, and sat there and I thought, something to do with my mum, why not? It might be fun. Put the things in, I'm listening, and I'm literally like, looking around, we were sat at the kitchen table at my mum and dad's house, and I'm looking around the room like, this is nonsense. Who believes in this? It's a crock of whatever. Well, fast forward, 10 years, and I'm preaching day in and day out to all my clients about meditation and breath work and mindset, and not a day goes by that I don't meditate. And it might be 5 minutes. I'm not sat on my cushion in the Himalayas, going on for 4 hours a day. That's quite extreme, but the difference it's made, like I said right at the beginning about, having a 1% change, well, over the last few years, the difference in me is night and day. And I know that if I missed meditation one day, I probably wouldn't feel a huge amount different, in that week. But if I missed it for 2-3 weeks, I think I'd feel quite different, and not in a good way.
Yeah, agreed.
So
it's good you're putting these retreats on. You're doing it totally a bit different, aren't you? Again, coming back to the cookie cutter thing. It's so individual, people. It's so hard, isn't it? To be honest, I don't even like the word retreat, if I'm going to be honest with you, because it's kind of, I feel like you're treating from yourself, and it should be called charge. You're kind of
charge into yourself.
But I like how it's so personal, so people can get out of it what they want. Yeah. And it's not, you're going to do this, you're going to do that.
It's not a one size fits all at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a rough cut itinerary, and I've got all the practitioners lined up and, booked and all the rest of it, but I've made it really clear that it might change a little bit, because depending on once I know the final group, because exactly what you're saying, I want to make sure that it's maximising it for them, their time there, their investment there. I want to make sure that it's in the right order. I've got the right amount of that thing, or maybe I won't do that because I think they'll need more of this. And like you say, make it really bespoke to each group, because then they'll get the most out of it. And like I say, nobody's the same, are they? So me just saying, well, they all need yoga, they might think, I'm not bothered, or they might all want to do loads of breath work. I just want to know a little bit more about my guests as we go through the booking, and then I'll confirm, sort of finalise exactly what it'll be, which is exciting.
Really exciting.
Yeah.
How can people book on it if someone wants to book it? Have we got any spaces left?
Yes, they are starting to book, but the March one, there are a few single rooms left, and I think a couple of twin rooms. There's still spaces. You can come with a friend, or you can come by yourself. I think there'll be quite a nice mix of the two. I've got solo travellers booked, and I've got friends booked, so it's a mixture. There's no one way to do it. But actually, I'm glad you reminded me, because for the March one, which is the 26th to the 30th, so it's a Wednesday to a Sunday. It's not in kids' school holidays, so it's a lot easier to kind of break away for a long weekend. It's normally 2,250, and I'm doing it for $995.
Amazing.
Yeah, really cheap. And the reason, and that's actually lower than cost. And the reason I'm doing that, I think we spoke about this when I came in a few months back, is I'm looking at this in the long term. You know, this isn't just a short term thing. People think retreat, oh, easy money. I think, I wish. It's not easy money. It's a big risk financially. There's no guarantee, you know. So my thinking is, it's my first one. I believe I can make it brilliant, but I also know I'm going to learn so much through this first process, and I'm going to be able to improve. And really, that's a never-ending process, I think. I'll always evolve and grow with each retreat that I do. So what I'm really keen for is the March, and with it being the first one, is to get it with... I'm not going to have, 20 people there, 6. I mean, it's a maximum of 12 that I've said anyway, but I might even just allow 6 and just get it really cozy and intimate and get really good feedback, hence the massive discount. Like I say, it's less than my cost price per person, because it's an investment. Yeah. It's an investment in building this product, this service, this offering that's actually going to be transformative and change lives, and not just be a come for 4 days in the sun, because anyone can do that. Yeah. I want it to be meaningful, impactful, and they genuinely are different when they leave, and they can have changes in, lasting change. So that's what the discount's for. I want to get people on my March one. It's very soon, it's in 2 months. Yeah. And I can really kind of, people that are willing to give me honest feedback, I want them to say, this was brilliant, but I thought that didn't work as well as perhaps it could have. Would you consider that? I need that, I want that, So if people are thinking, maybe I would, definitely come to the March one, because obviously it's cheap as chips compared to what it would be. So do they go to Go Live Well Instagram, Go Live Well website? So I've got on my socials, on my Instagram, I've got all the information on there. They can go to golivewell.co.uk/Go Live Well retreats as well, or just message me on Instagram and I can send you the brochure. And it's kind of super, whichever way they want to do it. Super flexible. Got payment plan options. It's only a small deposit to book. Super, because again, I don't want it to price people out either that want to come. Yeah. So it's super flexible. If someone says, I can come, here's my deposit, can I then pay in installments? Absolutely. Let's do it. Let's figure out what works for you and make it happen. And if somebody wants to book in with you direct, now you've shifted a little bit into the celiac. Yeah. We can't go on it now because obviously I know you're busy and you've got our next meeting. Yeah. But if anybody wants to book in with you for celiac disease, wants to talk about gluten, or is that what you're specialising in now? It is, yeah. Is that where again, just reach out. Yes, they can book a free sort of 20-minute, half-an-hour call with me to kind of talk about where they are, and I can advise them if I am the right person, kind of what I think the next steps would be, and if I'm not, if I think there's someone more suitable, I'll signpost them to someone else. But that's true of anybody. If anyone is listening and thinks, well, I'm not celiac, but I would want to chat with her, still get in touch, because if it's not me, I've got I actually run a networking group for nutritionists anyway, so I've got people in every speciality, fertility, healthy aging and longevity, weight loss, sports and athletes, you name it. I've got some on menopause, all of it. So anybody is thinking, well, I don't really know where to go, I'd rather them still come to me and I can signpost them and they can get the help they need, even if it's not, like I say, if it's not my bag, I know someone whose bag it definitely will be. Thanks, Grace. Appreciate you. Thanks for listening, everybody. Goodbye. Tim Marner, what, you ready?